We all experience pressure. Whether it's the final seconds of a game, the moment before the curtains rise, or that quiet instance when everything suddenly feels like it matters. Pressure has a way of revealing who we are. As a filmmaker, I've felt that too. When I'm directing and the spotlight turns onto me, every choice and every second counts. It's thrilling, but it's also exhausting, and it made me wonder, how do others handle that same kind of pressure in their own worlds? Welcome to Pressure Makes Diamonds. I'm your host, Kiri Salti. Pressure Makes Diamonds is a podcast about those moments that test us. When the clock runs out, the lights come up, or the stakes feel like life and death. Through each episode, we explore how stress and pressure affect the way we make decisions and measure ourselves against success. Today's episode, Game Day, dives into the world of sports, one of the clearest areas where pressure determines success or failure. In racing, every move has to be precise, every second accounted for.
Because the moment you lose that focus, it's pretty much all gone.
Today we're joined by Nooris.
My name is Nooris Gafoor. I'm a Singaporean racing driver, and I race Formula 4 all around the world, which goes up to 240 kilometers per hour in circuits.
Nooris is a driver whose career has taken him through karting circuits in Asia and Europe to Formula 4 racing, debuting in India in 2023 and competing in the UAE in 2024. He's someone who understands what it means to compete under pressure. For me, pressure is the eyes of my film crew on me. For Nooris, it's gripping the steering wheel at 200 kilometers an hour, knowing a sea of people are watching. I was curious how the presence of an audience changed the pressure Nooris felt once he was in the driver's seat.
I think initially having the thought of a lot of people watching you can be a bit scary, but I've come to realize that whenever I'm in a race car or in karts or in Formula 4, you pretty much have so much mental focus on driving the car. You don't really focus too much on what's happening around you rather than what's happening within yourself. Initially, the thought of it is a bit scary to see a lot of people watching you, but then the moment you jump in the car and start driving, it's something that you don't really focus on.
Mentally, what would you say the toughest part of the racing is for you?
For me, I would say the most challenging part would be towards the end of the race. In racing in general, you would have to keep 100% of your focus throughout the whole weekend. Because at the end of the day, racing it comes down to just 1 second, almost to 1,000th of a second. So trying to keep that momentum and just that focus within the whole race and qualifying and practice, it can be very stressful and it can be something that kind of knocks down your confidence, but it's something that you kind of have to train for. It's just a lot of cardio, a lot of fitness, and also mental strength. Just being able to stay focused and be as consistent as possible and be within that 1/10 or 1 second per lap, because the moment you lose that focus, it's pretty much all gone.
To understand how Nooris got here, before the pressure and the noise, I wanted to know where his journey began.
So my dad started doing corporate racing in karts back in Singapore. Pretty much he would invite me to the track whenever he had a race, and I think me witnessing him doing some racing really sparked me to want to do racing, because it was something that he was really passionate about, and I saw that it was an opportunity for me to at least try it out together with him. Since then, that was when I got my first kart and fell in love with the sport.
And also the fastest time goes to Nooris Gafoor.
When I first started karting, it started as a hobby, especially when I was doing it with my dad, just going on weekends to the local track in Singapore. Didn't really think I would take it seriously until my family decided that we wanted to move to the UK to continue our studies. I realized that karting in the UK is a lot bigger than I expected, especially coming from Singapore where there was only one track, and then going to the UK where there was at least 5 to 10 tracks. At the start of this journey in racing in the UK, it was daunting. There was a lot of really good drivers that are currently on the top step of motorsports. So I think when I first moved to the UK, I was racing against drivers that you would know, for example, Ollie Berman, Oliver Gray, Chan Shields, which is currently in Formula 2. So a lot of big names. I think it's very valuable to me, considering that racing against them taught me a lot of things in karting or in motorsports in general. So I think it helped me a lot. I would say this is very ironic, but I support Lando Norris. I think him being such a young driver and going straight into Formula One at such a young age inspired me to really push myself to want to be in that level. And I think I followed his journey since he was in karting, because he also raced in the UK when it came to go-karts.
You moved from karting to Formula 4, and your first time in a single-seater was in India in 2023. What was the pressure like then, stepping into a completely new layout and branch of motorsports for the first time?
I was doing karting for about 10 years prior to actually doing single-seaters or Formula 4. Formula 4 never really crossed my mind. I mean, initially I was meant to do Formula 4 in 2021, but unfortunately COVID hit, and that meant I couldn't really do much racing, especially karting. At the end of 2023 was pretty much my last year in karting before I had to do national service, which is compulsory in Singapore. And 2 months prior to the India Championship, that was when I decided I wanted to do something out of karting for once at least before I had to serve my national service. The stressful part was pretty much just organizing everything in such a short span of time. I had 2 months to prepare myself and do as much testing as possible prior to the season opener in India. I would say, unfortunately, there was not much testing opportunities in Asia especially. I only had about a day and a half in a Formula 4 car right before the first race in India. But we took everything one step at a time, and we were still able to focus on the things that we had to improve in. In my opinion, I think the most stressful point was pretty much trying to get up to speed compared to the other competitors within that 1.5 days of just testing.
Even within the same motorsports, you still have to vary across tracks. How does the change in tracks affect how you prepare and perform on the days that you have competitions?
We pretty much just have to get used to the track layout in general. Usually on a Formula 4 race weekend, we would only have a Friday practice right before qualifying on Saturday. So we only have about 2 hours of track time right before qualifying, where you would have to do your fastest lap to qualify for the races. I think prior to all of this practice, the option that a lot of racing drivers do, especially me, is to do a simulator run. So we would go either back home or to a simulator place to pretty much just nail down the racing lines as much as possible, so that we do not have to experience that within the 2 hours of practice, and try to minimize any waste in time on track itself.
I was wondering how the balance between fighting for your own race but also fighting for the team comes into your head, and how that dynamic between sort of team sport and individual racing in the same scenario affects your process.
It can be challenging, especially if, as a racing driver, you always want to do the best you can. At the end of the day, you are racing with other drivers as well, so trying to stay safe, and especially with your teammates, you want to make sure that you get maximum points for the team. I think it always comes back to having expectations of what result you're going to get. So always trying to push yourself to do better than your teammates. I would say when it comes to racing with your teammates, it can be very exciting but also scary at the same time, because one, you want to impress other people watching by showing that you are the quickest in the team, but at the same time you also want to show that you're able to work well with them. For example, let's just say if they are a faster driver, you would want to learn from them, or if they're a faster driver right behind you on track, you would want to give them way and try to follow them as much as possible.
Has there ever been a specific time where you've let pressure get to you, or you didn't handle it the way you wanted?
I would say there's a few times in karting especially. I think I went into the senior category at the age of 14, where I was competing against drivers up to the age of 35, and I think I was one of the youngest drivers on the grid. It was scary. I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to try to do better than a lot of the more experienced drivers, which is something I shouldn't have done, and I wish I could have changed. I think there was a few races where I think I pushed myself a bit too much physically, so I think having exhaustion towards the end of the race as well. And there was other few races where I thought I could really push myself, and unfortunately got into a few accidents on track. But once you grow older and once you become more mature in racing, you learn from your mistakes. When I had my first few crashes, it was just a learning point for me. So I tell myself that whenever I get a result that I'm not happy with, it's not about losing, it's about learning. So I think a statement that a lot of people say in motorsports is it's either you win or you learn, not if you win or lose. So I think at the age of 14, I kind of just have to tell myself that even if my results are not as expected or as good as I want it to be, it's not the end of the world.
That mindset would become core to how Nooris approaches racing, and later how he mentors others. We will be right back with Nooris after this short break. Welcome back. In this part of the interview, we talk about advice, how to handle pressure, and stay grounded in such a demanding sport. Nooris founded N2 Driver Development, a program that mentors young racers through one-on-one coaching and on-track guidance. I wanted to know what advice he shares with these drivers about handling pressure in such an intense environment. What are the top bits of advice that you give them about handling pressures with competition, or what do you think is the main thing that you tell them when looking into the world of motorsports?
I think it's good to have expectations, positive expectations, but at the same time, it has to be as realistic as possible. People that go into their first race thinking that they're going to win, I would say it's not something that you should expect straight away. It's something that you have to learn and go through the process in motorsports. Taking racing a step at a time is something that you should really focus on rather than just setting an end goal and try to shoot for the stars straight away.
Through your career in motorsports, have you developed any strategies, rituals, routines, or even people that help you when it comes to even practice or competition days?
Yes, so I started listening to music. So right before racing or right before practice, I would listen to music. And specifically, I would listen to music that is very upbeat and pretty much gets me going as much as possible. But then I came to a realization that started to stress me out a little bit too much, because listening to such an upbeat music gave me a lot of stress. So I started to move away from the upbeat music and started to listen to like R&B or any slow music, I think just to calm down the nerves as much as possible. I tried to visualize the race before it even starts, just trying to think of every situation that might happen. Maybe an hour, 30 minutes before a race, you can just start thinking about the options of what might happen in the race. But I think towards the last 10 minutes before a race is pretty much just trying to block out any noise around you and try to stay focused and stay grounded.
You're aspiring towards hopefully GT racing in the next few years. As you sort of look ahead to that, how do you see pressure continuing to shape your journey in the motorsports world moving forward?
I would say since I was young, I never really had a goal of being into Formula One, which is a big surprise to many people, but my goal was to always be in GT. I've always been interested in cars. So I think just trying to adapt the stuff that I've learned in karting and in Formula 4 that can directly translate to the GT stuff will help a lot. I definitely learned from the past stress that I had when it came to racing. Pretty much just trying to focus on things that I can change and focus on things I can do on my own rather than focusing on other people and the results around me. I think taking it step by step, like I said before, and just focusing on myself and just trying to improve myself in motorsports rather than anything around me.
Okay, and just to end off, if you could race against any driver from the past, present, who would it be and why?
That's a really good question. I think there's a lot of drivers that I wish I could race against. But yeah, I think going back to my idol, I think I would always want to race against Lando Norris. I think that would be such a good experience.
Awesome. Well, I hope to see you and Lando racing side by side on the track one day.
Thank you.
And thank you for your time, Nooris. It's been really lovely talking to you.
Thank you.
From the first laps of a karting race to racing on the world stage, Nooris' story reminds us that pressure is never just about competition. It's about growth, resilience, and what we discover about ourselves when we're tested. Thank you to Nooris Gafoor for featuring in this episode. You can follow his racing journey on his Instagram page, @Nooris Gafoor, as he prepares for one of the biggest races of his career, the Macau International Kart Grand Prix. He's currently looking for partners to join him on this journey, so be sure to check out his page and follow along as he chases this next milestone. Special thanks to Jocelyn Gonzalez. Tune in next week for a new episode of Pressure Makes Diamonds.
And there is a little bit of urgency now in Nooris Gafoor's driving. He said to me that based on the amount of funding they've got, this could well be his last race, so no wonder he wants to bow out strong and show to potential sponsors, look, I am worth the backing. Someone as talented and as brilliant behind the wheel as Nooris, and to the whole of Singapore, I really hope that isn't the last time we see this man in a racing car. Come on, give him another shot.